Hi, I am with Eric Hagen today, a former UC Claremont student. How are you, Eric?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Would you like to tell us a little about your experience at UC Claremont?
Yeah, actually, it's crazy to think how long ago that was. It just, because it doesn't seem like it's been that long ago.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, so I started at Claremont at the age of 27. I was, what, I don't know what they call it now, non-traditional student.
Mhm.
Um, I came into the education field at 27. And I started at UC Claremont with their pre-education program. Um, Originally, I had majored in secondary education for the first year I was there. And I worked with Dr. Longtran, Dr. Frank Fitch, some others that were in the program at the time to really try to get my head around teaching, being a teacher. Like I said, I had started at secondary education that first year, and then after doing some community work and tutoring, I found out I needed to go to the middle school. I needed to teach middle school, and there was a specific reason for that, um, of which what I guess I don't. It's it sounds so cliche saying this, but like it was a calling.
I don't think that sounds cliche. I think it's just from your heart.
Like the con like okay, so I was tutoring high schoolers. That's part of the program. You go and you observe and then you tutor. And
Mhm.
when I was tutoring high schoolers, there was just this distinct separation. Like
Mhm.
I called it I called it like an intellectual death. And so I was, I'm watching that and I'm like, man, what is wrong here? Like something happened here. Um,
What was that like, intellectual death? What was it like? What were they doing or not doing? They
they're
just
just
not
checked.
thinking?
Yeah, they're just checked out.
Hmm.
They're going through the motions to get to the end.
Hmm.
Um, so then I had the opportunity to do tutoring at an elementary school,
Hmm.
and I went to tutor there, and I tutored there for about a month. Um, and it was a completely different scenario. The kids were alive, learning was fun. The world was bright and new and shiny, and everything was possible. And then somewhere between elementary school to high school, that died. So so I was like, okay, well, that narrows it down. I need to go see what middle school has.
Yeah.
And I ended up tutoring at oh College Hill, possibly. I think it was North College Hill.
Mhm.
Um, and that's where it died over the course of six, seven, and eight. The kid could go one of two ways.
Mhm.
They could either, the spark could die from continuous beating down, and follow, you do what I tell you when I tell you, or it could be fostered and carried into the high school.
Mhm.
And that entirely fell on the how the teacher was teaching.
Mhm.
So it depended wholly on, as far as I knew at the time. I mean, obviously there's factors at home, but it depended largely on the teacher themselves.
Mhm.
So when I saw that, my big thing is, I'm changing careers at the age of 27. I want to do something with my life that makes a difference.
Mhm.
And the middle school is the place that I will be able to do that. And so I changed to middle grades education. And um, after that, I graduated. I graduated from the full program in 2013.
Mhm.
So UC Claremont would have been 2010 is when I went from UC Claremont to Maine.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so have you been teaching middle school ever since you graduated UC Maine?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
As a mother of a teenager, I am impressed.
Okay.
So speaking of my teenager, I've been told that, oh, you just shared your journey. I was going to ask you about your journey and you already shared that. Um, so how has your time at UC Claremont shaped your teaching?
Good question. Um, I'll put it this way. I remember my professors
Mhm.
at UC Claremont. I don't remember my professors at UC Maine. And I don't remember my professors at Xavier, where I got my graduate degree.
Mhm.
But I remember the ones at UC Claremont. And that alone should speak volumes. Um, I owe Tran. So Long Tran it's Dr. Long Tran, and he's a reverend. So we called him Rev Doc. So Rev Doc Tran. He was ever. When I went in, like when I went in to start the education program, you know, my understanding of school was what I had experienced as a student, and I did not have a good time as a student, and it completely blew the minds of everyone that I knew that I even went into education in the first place, because I hated school. And so when I went in went into the UC Claremont program, you know, I was coming in guns blazing.
Mhm.
You know, I was like, you know, like the system needs to burn. This is not how you educate children. Basically, I was coming in to fight for the kids who were like me that kind of got thrown to the side
Mhm.
and just
Mhm.
walked on, while the super popular rich people, you know, got everything that they wanted. That was in my mind. That was what my mind came in. So when I went into the education program, um, I was ready to fight. Like I was gonna call BS on every professor that told me XYZ.
Right.
Tran was the first professor I had, and he it is like the first night I'm there. I want to say like the first thing out of his mouth within maybe the first 15 minutes of classes. So this system is broke. These kids are getting thrown under the bus. Here's what you can do about it. I'm like, yes, yes, speak. And so, and he did, and that's what he's a frontline soldier like I am now. You know, he was in the frontline trenches with the kids. He was not in some office talking about curriculum. He was an operator. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't in the back of the line, which is where I wanted to be in the front.
Mhm.
Um, and so he already knew what to expect. And this is one of those things, and I know this is a long version to a short answer, but he taught the why. Why should you be doing this? Why do you want to do this? Why is it important that this is done?
Mhm.
Why does it matter? Everyone else taught how. How do you manage a classroom? How do you deliver this lesson? So on and so forth.
Mhm.
And the God's honest truth is, as a teacher, you will drop that within the first 2 weeks of teaching, because the sound and fury of a classroom is just the stuff that, and I'm sure the people that'll see this that'll be like, I remember him, will hate me saying this, but the it doesn't transfer. Like in college, you're not in the trenches. You're watching from a sideline going like, that looks fun. Let me execute this sunshine and rainbows lesson plan. And then as soon as you hit it, as soon as you hit the ground, you try to deliver that lesson plan and it tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know the kids, and you don't there's all of these factors that you don't understand yet. And so learning the how, while I'm sure it's important, does not do nearly as much as learning the why, because the why is what will keep you teaching. Like when you're having a bad day, which is a lot, the why will keep you in the classroom.
Right.
The how won't. And I just, but for his sins of teaching the why and not the how, they fired him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, or didn't renew his contract. I don't know however you want to go about it, but his influence at UC in the teaching program, and then the English department, I'd always been writing, and I didn't know the English department gave me the tools to voice what was in my head in sharper versions of what was in there already. And then the education program gave me the place and the reason to use that voice. But like I said, I don't remember any of the professors out after UC Claremont, and that should say everything.
It does, because I completely agree. We have great professors at Claremont, and they go above and beyond for their students.
Yeah.
So when you were in the English department, is that where you heard about East Fork? And
yeah, so I was around at the very beginning, like issue 1.
The Stone Age of the journal.
Some of the stuff, some of the work that was published in issue 1, we actually did editing work on at the Riverside Writers Collective. So like Rick Crabtree was one of the first published poets for East Fork, and the work that he submitted, he brought to the group for us to do. Now, I didn't know there was an East Fork journal. It was kind of still, it was there, but it was still in its infancy. So no one really knew what it was going to become. They were still trying to figure out everything. And then I went to an open mic at the coffee house that was down in Batavia at the time. And I read my work, some of my early work. And that's when, I met Joel, because I'd heard about Joel, and then I knew Phoebe, and everything kind of came together at that point. So, yeah, East Fork, it blows my mind that, what issue are you on? 23?
I think so. I think we're 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's nuts.
Crazy.
That's, that's over, see, two a year. This is why I teach social studies in English. I don't know math. 10 years ago. It was over 10 years ago.
Yeah, we're combining the fall and spring issue this year because it's going to be so big. And I know I think they had to do that for COVID as well. They had to cancel the one issue or put it off just because of, the pandemic. But yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
Come a long way.
It has. And like the website, I was looking at it. I was actually looking at it the other day because a lot of my former work, this is such a terrible thing to say, but I typically delete and destroy any of the work from the previous year. So
Hmm.
unless it's been published, it's
Hmm.
erased from reality, essentially. Um, so East Fork is the place where I can go back and find like, oh, I remember that. I remember, yeah, that was right. So
You say that, and I'm thinking about Emily Dickinson and how much of her work we wouldn't have if she would have done that.
yeah,
You need to keep it.
I know.
So when you're famous, they can write your book and they can publish
I maybe.
it.
I don't know. My thought is, and I'm sure this is completely, bonkers, but hey, I'm a poet, so why not be bonkers? You need to destroy the things of the past to give way to the things for the future.
Hmm.
So it was kind of a, I guess, ritualistic sacrifice of burning my stuff. Yeah,
That's really cool.
but now I don't have anything for a CV or a portfolio to put together for a chapbook. I got to start over. But anyway,
So when the Eastbourg Journal started, you were an editor right away when the first issue, or
no, I didn't start editing until I believe it was issue 3.
okay.
Um, because I didn't know anything about,
Hmm.
literary magazines or editing work, or, we were a group of 4, 5 people that got together at a coffee shop, got really caffeinated, and read work, and
Hmm.
you know did the stereotypical what writers do. They close the eyes and listen to the sound of the syllable, of certain resonances and assonance, and yeah, man, there's a lot of that. So when I got into we got into issue 3, and I'm like, they were asking for editors, and I was already running, or I was already at the Riverside Writers Collective. So I'm like, yeah, hey, why not? And it's that's how it ended. How it ended up. I ended up there.
Hmm. Do you think that editing changed your work at all, or
Oh
do you
yeah,
think, yeah, how
yeah.
so?
Um, I could see it from the other side,
Hmm.
because you look at it as you look at it as a writer,
Hmm.
and then the view as an editor of a like the of a literary review is so much different. Um, the I guess the one thing I can say is yeah, I've become very calloused against rejection letters at this point.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like if I send out submission packets, which I do in the fall and the spring,
Hmm.
uh, 90% of the stuff you send out is going to get rejected.
Hmm.
And it used to be when I started, oh my god, they rejected my piece, I must be a terrible writer. And now it's like, okay, all right, so that one's a reject, check that off the list. Where else did I send it? All right, that got rejected, check. Okay, oh, that got accepted. All right, so I'll put that one over there, and we'll talk to them later. And let's see, rejection, 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 rejection. All right, so this one I need to take out of my portfolio because it's getting published here. And so let me put these over into this pile so we can put the next packet together. And so it just became like, I don't know, it wasn't personal anymore.
Hmm.
And as someone who had to write the form rejection letters and the personalized rejection letters, like I
Hmm.
see that. And so I'm no longer of the mindset going like, all these writers, these editors are all just old men sitting around, poo-pooing all of these these young writers, you know, it's just, you've only got so much space,
Right.
and you got to take what you will fit the issue, not and if that doesn't work out for the writer, it doesn't work out for the writer. So
Mhm.
I guess it, I don't know, a business perspective gave me more of a, it gave me a separation point. And there we go. That's
So
and
do
that,
you have, oh, I'm sorry, you go on.
no. I'm rambling. I'm saying the same thing in 5 different ways. Please.
No, I don't think so. I think it's interesting. I was going to ask, and as someone that struggles with submitting work, even after being an editor, do you have any advice on how to get over that, or how you dealt with that,
Um,
or did you never deal with that?
I don't know, everything I've ever submitted has been published. No, I get rejected all the time. Um, I guess I don't know. That's some advice.
Well, you were talking about before we started recording about how you would do poetry readings and stuff. Do you think that that helps you
Yeah.
submit, like getting it out there verbally before
Well,
putting it out?
I think getting the work out there in general
Mm-hmm.
starts to take the edge off.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of young writers, I say young writers, a lot of fledgling writers, like
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are just starting, you know, publication is terrifying.
It is.
You know, like you look at these magazines and you know these books, and the print ones are most terrifying, because you know you've got in your hands this thing, and you're like, oh, there's no way in hell I could get into this. Look at this work. This is so much better than mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, but yeah, I mean, you need to get the work out there, and I guess so. Yeah, I guess that would be my first piece of advice is um sounds so callous, suck it up.
It doesn't
Yeah,
sound gal. It sounds like you're a school teacher.
yeah. You got to be willing to, I mean, anything worth doing is
Mm-hmm.
usually terrifying at first,
Mm-hmm.
and you just you gotta learn you gotta learn to separate yourself from your work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your poetry was something you created. It is not you. It is
Mm-hmm.
your creation. And um, if that, you know, it's something that you do, I guess.
Right.
Um, and yeah, it's a reflection of who you are at the time. You know, it's the stuff that I wrote early was a reflection of who I was at the time, and the stuff I write now is a reflection of who I am now, and there are two pretty different, you know, sets.
Right.
Um, but I mean, you got to get it out of, you got to get it out there, because the thing that I found is that you are creating something that somebody else is feeling. Like, you may write something from your heart and be like, nobody wants to hear this,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody out there needs to hear it. Not wants to, they need to, because in their head, you you know, they will see your words, they will read your words and be like, oh my god, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And they haven't
Mm-hmm.
been able to make their own words for it, because they don't understand, you know, words come from understanding, right? You know, you got to think it first, but if you can't find the words for it, you don't, it doesn't make sense. So when you
Mm-hmm.
read it from someone else, they, you know, it's like, I get it, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
um so there's not, like, you know, the musicians that make millions of dollars don't, you know, they don't write it for them. They don't write it for the fans. They write it for them. And then when they're singing it, the fans get it. The audience just resonates with the work. And so
Mm-hmm.
they listen to the musician.
Mm-hmm.
The poet creates work for themselves. The writer creates work for themselves. Their audience reads it, they resonate with it, and then you've got fans. You've got people who are going to come buy your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and you like, yes, going back to how do I get over this fear? You This is bigger than you,
Mm-hmm.
and the things you say matter. And that's one of the the things about teaching, like I can say something in passing and it sticks with a kid for
Mm-hmm.
years. um and the same will go with writing. Like you can write a line that you just throw away. It's a throwaway line. For
Mm-hmm.
someone, it changes them.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know what impact you're going to make. So yeah, suck it up.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm trying. I really am. And hopefully, if anyone else is, watching this, they'll be inspired too as well.
It better be.
Um, yeah. Do you have any stories that you like to share other than the one you did about UC Claremont staff?
I don't know that I should, simply because they're still employed at UC.
Do you want to skip over and talk about what you've submitted this issue and read us the selection? Or would you like to tell a story?
Um, okay, sorry. I'm scanning my brain like, okay, can I tell that story without getting somebody in trouble? Um, so I'll tell you a story about
Okay.
Riverside Writers Collective, which was formed out of people from UC Claremont. So
Mm-hmm.
um, the there was a gentleman by the name of Robert some oh, I forgot his name. That makes me feel terrible because Robert was a great guy. Anyway, so Robert was well into his winter years,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he was a very staunch Christian. Um, just like God was the reason. And Rick Crabtree and I were all, we did not filter our words.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we enjoyed the occasional adult beverage. We were by all means, we were sinners on several counts. And so Rob ended up passing away,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
Rick and I went to his service, and we're sitting there quietly, heads bowed, arms, hands together, arms. And Rick leans over to me and he says, "You realize he's got the last lap on this?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he says, "He got us into a church." And I just busted out laughing, and that, and like, yes, like I could totally see him just laughing. um and that kind of bond
Mm-hmm.
goes beyond the teacher student bond. It
Mm-hmm.
goes beyond the peer editor bond. Your friends, your family.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert and Rick became family,
Mm-hmm.
and that would not have happened had I not been at UC Claremont and met these miraculous, these wonderful people. Um, and yeah, I mean, I know that's a sad story, but it's just, stuff like that, going.
Yeah, you actually brought tears to my eyes because I completely agree with you. That's how I feel. It's just a great little, it's a great community. It's like a family here at UC Claremont.
I agree. And
So,
I'm
oh, I'm
glad,
sorry, go on.
I'm glad, I'm glad they still remember me because
They do. I have heard your name in the hollowed halls of UC Claremont, and it's used well.
well, good.
Yeah, in
That's my
nice
next
ways.
question. Like,
Yeah.
what did you hear?
No, no, no. When I was looking for people to talk to, your name came up, and I just kind of chuckled because obviously I had heard your name before.
No.
So, um,
Well, I'm glad it was in good.
no, it wasn't good. Am I allowed to disclose how I knew your name, or would you rather me not?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I know your name because you are my daughter's social studies teacher, and she adores you,
It's
and
true.
she speaks very highly of you. So she looks forward to your class every day.
I like
So
having her in it. I mean, and that's not me sucking up. I legitimately like got a very subtle humor,
yes, she does.
and so like there's a lot of kids in that class that are very bombastic, and
Hmm.
I can just give her a look, and she knows exactly what I'm. We've met, and
Yeah.
she just sit there. She'll give me a look, and I'll be like, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that would be my husband. She's a lot like her dad. Um, so you're going to have work published this issue, and we're excited about your work because I'm especially excited because I was um, very drawn to it. And I was wondering if you would like to read one of your pieces for us and talk about it if you want, or you don't have to talk about it. It's up to you.
Would it be okay? Because I know in our talks here, we've talked about the voice I had versus the voice I have now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Would it be okay to read one of the things that I've had published before,
Yeah.
and one of the pieces that are coming up?
I love that idea. I think
That'd
that's
be
a great
okay.
idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this piece is called Dream. It is published in the seventh issue, issue 7 of East Fork Literary Journal. Dream for those who can't. We need you to. Dream for the lives we lost working hours we didn't have to put milk and bread on the table. We lost friends and innocence. We didn't have enough to know where it comes from and where it goes. Sometimes you have to lose to know how to win. Dream for her who for too long was beaten down by words and actions near every man like her daughter's father, tossed like some puppet between throes of berating and, baby, I love you. Baby, I'm sorry. But she's unable to leave. The abuse was something solid, something she believed deserved, worried and working toward anything better, losing sleep over concern that her daughter has a good upbringing, better than she had, and doesn't see how much she has already sacrificed. For those who know it's true, all the things you do come back to you. Dream for him who broken from the roadside, his son and wife laid on sand and pavement like sleep, overcome in what death brings to the living, the solid grief and hollow sympathy, when recovery is only in dealing, when healing is never an option, but love always is. Losing sleep over his students who, because he believes in them, spends a lifetime thinking of ways to help them achieve their own. Dream, dream on. Dream for me, and I'll dream for you. Dream until the dream comes true. All right. That's the original. That's the early voice. That's me
Why
in
are you
college.
getting rid of this stuff?
Uh, so that one is kept. That you guys have that one.
Okay, good.
Glad that you do because I forgot I wrote it. All right. So this piece is coming up in issue, I'm going to say 23.
Mhm.
All right. This is a piece coming up in issue 23. It's called Gypsy Education. I'll give a little bit of background about this. So, as a teacher, or as someone who's been teaching for a while,
Mhm.
uh, there's a stark dichotomy, I guess, or polarization, maybe the right word, where you see the young and the vibrant versus the weathered, I guess, the seasoned. Um, and gypsy education is one of my pieces that reflects that. um, going from one side to the next, or one end of the spectrum to the other, or um, I'll let it speak for itself then. So this is gypsy education. Sitting in my truck in the parking lot, listening to Dorothy's blues and smoke vocals. Inside, there's a classroom and a lesson I didn't prep for. No reason other than I didn't want to. Don't want to. Other teachers are walking in with breast dresses and pleated khakis, dragging behind them carts full of potential, puff letters and cartoon bubbles, pumpkin stickers. Try that line again. Puff letters and cartoon bubbles, pumpkin stickers, things to say I love you. On the console next to me is a thank you bag full of 3-day-old leftovers. There's a cold black coffee in the cup holder. I learned to travel light, do without, don't unpack. You'll be somewhere else, doing something else. A gypsy educator with a cell phone in his hand, typing rough drafts of poetry into a Facebook update box. A regular Hunter S. Thompson, minus the LSD. Social media is the new bar napkin. Slanch.
I'm I love it. I think you're I think you just come from a really genuine place. And I think that not everyone's capable of speaking their truth so clearly as you are. And I really admire that.
Thank you.
So thank you for letting me interview you and making both of us cry or get teary. I think I was at 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a hallmark of a good interview.
Yeah.
So thank
I
you.
was not ready for Dream. I forgot. You you remember where you were when you wrote it, and
Yeah.
dang. Anyway, yes, thank you for interviewing. Thank you for the interview. I always appreciate it. I hope to see you and everyone at the release party.